Hello, Adams County School District. My name is Megan, and I'll be your ClassLink trainer for this particular session. We want to get started right away. There is a lot to cover and a lot of stuff that you need to do kind of from the very beginning just to make sure ClassLink is going to work. It's magic for you. So first thing I want to talk about is just what ClassLink is. First of all, ClassLink is one location for all of your web-based tools and websites. So it's one spot that you'll have to go instead of having to go to multiple spots in multiple different places to access all of your materials, all of your curriculum, all of your school district resources, anything that you could possibly need for your day can be found in this one place. The other amazing and game-changing feature of ClassLink is that it saves your passwords for you. And I know that Google Chrome can save your passwords, and there are other browsers that save your passwords too. But ClassLink having them saved for you is a much more secure solution that's going to help ensure that your data stays private. Students and teachers will have their very own access and customized screen, which really makes it fun for them to go through and make some changes and make it really reflect their personality. And we'll talk about a lot of different ways that ClassLink can help your classroom run more smoothly. So we'll talk about a lot of stuff today. So we'll talk first about logging in and the first time setting up your MFA, which there are a lot of different choices, so sit tight. We also have the My Apps screen, which we'll talk about the functionality of that, how we can add new apps, and kind of what it means to have apps on your dashboard. We'll also talk about organization and creating folders and tags. We'll talk about how we can customize our ClassLink page, and we'll finish up with something called My Classes, which gives you a little bit more, I guess we'll say, communication with your classes to push certain apps out to them or take a look at some data that's going to help you make informed decisions about instruction or about support. We do recommend using a laptop or a Chromebook or a computer for this training today. I know that you guys have kind of a mix of devices, so just find something that works for you. I, of course, am using just a Chrome browser, and it automatically, from your district, you will have a ClassLink extension that is connected to your web browser. So you may see that in the top right of Chrome. That just kind of helps everything work in the background to make sure you have a very smooth experience. The only reason I like to mention that is because if you are on a personal device and trying to access ClassLink, it may prompt you to download that extension. And I just wanted to mention that because it's certainly something that we recommend as it makes your experience more seamless. Obviously, too, you guys in younger grades have iPads, so there is a ClassLink app that you can push to those mobile devices or iPads. You also can have it on your phone if that's something you're interested in doing. So it just makes it easy. Again, you have everything all in one space, and all of your passwords are saved for you, so you don't even have to think about it when you're on the go. We're going to get started, but before I send you to this URL, I wanted to talk about the multi-factor authentication setup because that is the first screen that you are met with when you log into ClassLink. So there are a couple of options, actually a lot of options for your school district when it comes to what multi-factor authentication means you can set up. So the first one is an image. So this is something that, you're going to choose from a list of, several dozen images that could be your particular and unique image to connect you and your account to make sure it's truly you. So all you have to do with that particular multi-factor authentication setup is to choose an image that resonates with you. And every time you go to log into ClassLink, it's going to ask you just to confirm that image. So pretty simple, just a click of an image and you're in. The next tier of multi-factor authentication is to set up a PIN. So this is very similar to other websites or apps that you have. Setting up a PIN, you enter it 2 times, and then it asks you for that PIN every subsequent time you try to log in. Moving on from there, there's also an option to use your cell phone and sign up for text message authentication. So I like this one a lot because I have my watch on my hand. So I know that if I'm in the front of my classroom and I need to log into ClassLink on my panel that's in front of the room or my projector, whatever I have, I know that I can easily obtain that code right from my watch, type it right in, and I'll be authenticated that way. It's very similar to other websites or applications that you have that want you to authenticate using your cell phone. The fourth way that you can use multi-factor authentication is to actually use your cell phone and download an app. So there are a few mobile device authenticators that are out there. I have on my phone, just, for a multitude of things, I have the Microsoft Authenticator app, but they all work fairly similarly. It's very easy to set up. So what that looks like is it's similar to the SMS in the sense that you're looking for a code, but in order to gain access, I do have to open the app on my phone, take a look at that 6-digit code, and then enter it in that space on my screen. The final way, and you'll be getting more information about this as it becomes more available, is you can use a YubiKey to be able to authenticate. So that's just a little, almost like a USB device that's going to get plugged into your computer that is coded for you and your account that just helps to authenticate. So you're going to choose the method that works best for you. And once again, we're going to head to our unique URL. So every district we work with has a unique URL. This one in this case is launchpad.classlink.com/adams14. So when we head over to that website again, launchpad.classlink.com/adams14, we'll see a login screen that looks like this. So you have this beautiful background here, and you see that there's a space for your username and password. In order to log into ClassLink, you are going to use your Windows credentials. So whatever you use to log into your email or log into your device, that's what you're going to use to log into ClassLink. You'll also notice that there is a little option down here for what we call our quick cards. So quick cards are a great solution that you are utilizing for your youngest learners that essentially generate a QR code for each student that they can then hold up to their camera on their device, scan, and be into their account without having to worry about them entering their username and password. So go ahead and do that. I'm going to switch over to my demo account, and we are going to take a look at what's going on with that. So once you select your MFA and create that account, what's going to happen next is it's going to ask you to create a password recovery setup. So we're going to go ahead and do that. So we'll set up recovery. And you could do a couple of different options. One is you can use your mobile phone. So again, you're going to enter your phone number. It'll text you a verification code, and that's how you would reset your password if need be. You also can create a series of questions with answers that can help you create that experience where you are able to recover your password in the event you forget it. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to pause for a second and do this. So now that I've gone ahead and created my password recovery questions and put in my answers, now I have access to my dashboard. And you'll notice that my screen is kind of full of apps at the moment, which is fantastic. So yours may look similar to mine, or yours may look slightly different. So what I want to talk about is just the arrangement of what you're seeing right here and kind of how it's going to make sense for you in your classroom. So when I hover over any of these apps, I can see that there are a couple of different icons that are present in some cases and not present in others. So that lock icon is something that you'll hover over and see on every one of these apps. That's because what that indicates is that the app is locked on your dashboard. So locked really only means that it's not able to be deleted. You still can maneuver and move the apps to where you want them to be. You can create folders and add them to folders. You just can't delete them. So that's a nice thing for you because you have everything at your fingertips, but it's also nice for your students because they don't have to worry about accidentally deleting an application. So the other thing that you'll notice when you take a look at some of these apps is a little key that's in the corner. So what that's indicating is that there is a username and password that is required for that particular app. Now, certain applications function differently. So with McGraw-Hill, that is something that is a passive kind of federated app. So that is an instance where your school district work with McGraw-Hill and ClassLink in the background and share the usernames and passwords for all users within your account. So what does that mean for you? That means that when you click on McGraw-Hill, you should be able to get in there without any kind of credentials because it already knows who you are and just opens up that door for you. So I'm going to demonstrate this, but I am going to get an error message because I am not a member of your school district. So it's going to tell me that we can't process your request. But you, as you're logging in, should be able to get into McGraw-Hill with no problem. So that's one way that passwords are saved. So it's totally passive. You don't have to do anything. However, there may be some examples where you click an app like Cengage, for example. This one is an example where you might have to click it. And it's going to be presenting you with a screen that does not look normal for that website. So this is typically not what it looks like when you're logging into this resource. Do not be alarmed because what's happening, and if you look into the URL at the top, ClassLink is stepping in and saying, hey, this is the first time you're using this application or you're accessing this website through ClassLink. Would you like us to save your password? So obviously we're going to make our lives easier. Click save. One thing I do want to note is that sometimes Chrome comes up and asks if you want to save your username and password. We highly recommend that you don't do that. Some districts I know, like the one I used to work in, actually suspended that ability, and we were no longer allowed to save our passwords to the browser. We could only save them to ClassLink. So it was just a more secure experience, and it makes it easier for you to log in. So once you log in that first time, you're not going to have to do it again. Now, in the event that you change your password, you can change that password with a right-click menu. So if we were to change our password for this resource, you can always go in and edit your password at any time. Another way to edit your passwords is to go in settings. We can go right here to app passwords, and then we can go into any of them with our edit tool, and then you can change that password in the event that that is a necessity for you. Other things I want to mention is, when we take a look at the app menu, you may notice that there might be something that you're like, well, wait a minute, I want something else. I'm missing this application. I'm missing this website that I use all the time. So I want to draw your attention to this plus sign up here where it says Open App Library. So this is an ever evolving process with districts, and it, over time, as people have requests and new resources become available to you, you're going to find that there may be some more apps that are added to these libraries. But what you can see right now is you've got some folders that you may or may not see depending on how they were set up. Sometimes they're set up so high school resources are only seen by high school teachers. But if we take a look, you can see that some of these apps are already pushed out to me, but some of them are not. So if I want to add Lexia to my dashboard, it's just as simple as clicking that add button. You can see over here, it already added to my dashboard. I can add whatever I want. Now, if I go to middle school, I can see, I really want Renaissance student. And I want, what else is in there? Lexia English. And if I go to high school, TCI, so I can add a bunch of different things. There's also, you can see a student folder, which is kind of nice because the students can come in and add these as necessary. There's also a teacher folder as well. So you can add, the ClassLink Help Center, you can add, looks like IXL, all of these things that are here to help with your instruction. So just know that that's there. And then of course your district will talk to you about how to request apps. The other amazing thing that you guys have access to right here is this add app button. This is fantastic because it really allows you to create any shortcut, any app from any URL that you possibly have. So what that means for me is that let's say there's a document or a piece of curriculum material or a website that I use regularly with my students, but there's not an app for it in here. What I can do is simply click Add App. And let's say this is, maybe it's behavior documentation, maybe it's my team meeting notes, maybe it's something else that I just want easily accessible that I don't want to have to sift through my Google Drive for. I can just simply name this and I can say, team meeting minutes. And now I paste that URL and it's going to ask me to select an icon. So there are a lot of icons to choose from. So I'm just going to look for meeting. So if I spelled it right, it would probably work. There we go, meeting. So I like this one, meeting pulse. Don't worry about the text that's to the right there. That does not follow along. So I'm just looking at the image that I have right here. So I'm actually going to pick this one with the 3 people because it kind of makes it feel, we're meeting together. So now I've got, here's my select icon. I'm going to add that app to my screen. So now you can see if I scroll down a little bit, I have my team meeting minutes. And if I click it, it takes me right to my Google Doc. And it makes it very simple for you to pinpoint specific things that you are looking to have out of, your fingertips. So it could be behavior documentation. It could be, again, that I used to teach social studies. So I had my, in this day in history kind of fun fact stuff that I used to always go to. So anything that you could possibly need as a teacher, you have the freedom to then add that as an app. So you can use the plus sign like I showed you. You also can right click from here and click add app, and then it opens that same menu. So that's what I like about ClassLink too, is it's very easy and user friendly. There's a lot of different pathways to accomplish the same goal. So once you have all the apps that you're looking for to start out, you might look at this and say, wow, this is really, it's a lot, right? So what we can start to do is organize a little bit. You can see that you already have a folder right here that is assigned to Adams 14 support. So this again is locked. This is something that the district pushed out. It only has one thing in there. You cannot remove it. You also cannot add to this folder. It will not let you because again, it is locked. So that's there. We have this one as well with Frontline and Okta. Let's say I wanted to start creating folders for my subjects, right? So let's say I wanted to create a folder that is for ELA. So I can right click, I can add folder, I can name it ELA, and then I can choose whatever color I want. So I'm going to go with like a magenta. So now I could create that folder. So I'm going to go Lexia belongs in ELA. Newsella belongs in ELA. Come on. We're going to use IXL for that in ELA. So we can do a lot of different things. The next thing that maybe I want to do is do a social studies one. So if I wanted to, or, you know, I'm just going to throw apps together. I can also create folders by clicking it, hovering it over another app. I'm working on my computer lately. I'm going to have to do an update. But now if I hover, you can see that that created a new folder too. So now I can go in, I can change the name of my folder and I can call it social studies. And now I can, you know, change the color of that again. We'll do this one as kind of a red color. And now I've got folders. So it's really nice and easy to be able to then move things into folders as you see fit. So it might be really great to start organizing your life like that. I always, you know, sometimes people are really into folders, sometimes people are not. So however you like to function, you can be as organized as you want. The one thing that I'll say about folders that is a little bit frustrating, but there's a way around it, is something like Newsella, that's right here, or IXL, you might use for more than one subject. But right now it's living in ELA. But if I wanted to use it for math, I could make a math folder, but I cannot put those same resources in that additional folder. Newsella or any app can only live in one folder. So that may be a little frustrating. So I just wanted to throw this out as food for thought. Another feature of ClassLink is that we can create tags. So I love tags because it really doesn't change the look and feel of this, but it makes your life a little easier. So again, we'll go back to that math or that ELA component of things. So if I go to Newsella, I'm going to add a tag and I'm going to create a tag that just says ELA. It's not changing anything, but I also use Newsella for social studies. I also use Newsella for science. So I'm starting to create these tags that are going to allow me to assign them to multiple apps across my screen. So here I am at IXL. I'm going to tag this one for ELA as well. I'm going to tag this one for, you know, science. Same thing with Lexia. So I'm going to tag Lexia for ELA. We're going to do Lexia English for ELA. So I can start to assign these tags. Now, as I'm kind of going through my day and navigating through my resources, instead of having all of these apps to stare at all the time, I can go up here to this tag. And now I can say, okay, we're transitioning to ELA. I'm going to switch over and just show my ELA courses or my ELA resources. So now here's just ELA, gets rid of all of the other stuff, the clutter, all of that. And now if I'm moving from ELA to math, same thing, I get rid of that tag. And now I go, oh, I didn't make a math one, but I can go to social studies. And now here are my social studies apps. When I'm ready to science, I can go here, here's my science apps. The other nice thing that I always like to draw attention to that people forget about is the search icon or the search menu. I use this all the time when I would go behind students or they would raise their hand and say, I can't find this app. Well, maybe they created a folder and you're not sure where that app is either because you didn't create it. So now the nice thing is you can kind of work with them to build that independence so they can come up here and they can just search for Drive. Oh, never mind. We'll do class. So as they start to type the name of the app, you can see that you can either launch it from right here or we can launch it from right here. So it just makes it easier to find things and kind of narrow down what you're looking for. A few other things I wanted to talk about. Let's say, maybe we'll go back through and we'll just create a random folder just so I can kind of illustrate my point. One other thing that you can do from the right click menu as we're, you know, building this out for a second is you can create auto launches for certain applications. So from a practicality standpoint, I would say that a good auto launch might be something like Google Classroom. So this is something that you're going to access at the beginning of your day. You don't want to have to think about it. What we can do is right click and set auto launch. So now you see there's a little rocket ship right there. So that rocket ship just means that auto launch is enabled for that particular app. So now what happens is the next time that I log into ClassLink, not only will my ClassLink tab launch, but I'll have another tab over here that's going to be Google Classroom. So it helps to cut down on the number of clicks that you have to do to get your day ready. So you might do that for Infinite Canvas because that is how you might take attendance. So you want those things auto launched. The other thing that you might want to do is use this new folder. So let's say we do have a folder, we have all of our resources in there. You might have Raptor, that might be something that you go to all the time, but you want it to live in this folder, but you don't want to have to click in it to find it. We can also add to favorites, which is really nice because now what I can do is select that. It's going to create this icon right here, but it's also going to create a second icon right here. So Raptor's going to live in my new folder. It's going to be out of the clutter zone, but I can still easily access it from right here. So it makes it really nice and easy for you, but also think about those students who struggle to find applications sometimes. Maybe it's something that you want them to have easy access to, like Google Classroom, so we can add that to favorites. So now instead of them having to search and look for Google Classroom every day, what they can do is just enable that favorites and then come down here. So that's the only thing they'll have to worry about. You can remove favorites at any time. You can remove anything. You can remove auto launch. You can remove favorites to really make ClassLink work for you. All right, next thing I wanted to talk about was just ways that we can customize our ClassLink experience. So if we go over to edit mode right here, you can see that there's a lot of different ways that we can customize. Whoop, switched to the wrong tab. No, did I just close the whole thing? Look at that, I did. All right, now that I'm back into my account, what you can see is that, again, we've got a lot of apps here. I just wanted to show you some things that you can do to make it a little bit more personalized. So if we go right here to edit mode, you can see that there are a couple of things that we can change. First is the theme. So this right here is our classic theme, which I personally like, but you may like the primary theme if it's something that you're going to be constantly showing your students and you just want it to be a little bit more of a friendly experience for those younger learners, you can do that. You also can change it to what's called our professional theme. And again, just a little bit of a different look, but you're able to do the same things, right? And you can, travel between these as often as you want. What you can also do, which I really like, is you can kind of pair and mix and match different elements of each theme to really match what you're looking to do. So I like the classic theme, but I don't like having to scroll through all of my apps. That just, to me, I forget that these are there. So I always like to do classic theme, and then I always go to small icons. Now you may be looking at this and saying, how are you able to even read it? Well, I'm not. So if I go over to accessibility settings, I can increase the text size to make it so that I still have small icons, but I can still actually read what they are. All right. You also, if you liked the large icons, you can also do that. So you can just make them a bigger image, and we can also reset the size, and go from there. So another thing you can change is the font style. So right now we've got this kind of darker background and then the white text that pops. You also have what's called shadow text. So again, depending on your accessibility needs, you have some options there. And the last thing is palette. This hasn't been working in these accounts lately, but another great thing about settings is we can come over to settings and change some similar things as well. So if we go to theme, again, we can change the theme. We can change the size of the app, the shadow text. You can do high contrast. We also can change that palette right here. So the palette right now is this blue color. So if we change this to, let's say, pink, you can see that there are a couple of, or purple, you can see that there are a couple of things that change. So we changed the color of the top navigation bar, the color of the accessibility tools and help, and also the color of the icons associated with each app. So lots of things that you can modify. Some other things in the settings menu I just want to point out is, again, you can change your app passwords from here for any of those apps that are password lockers. You also can auto launch from right here. So we can enable up to 5 apps to auto launch when you log into ClassLink. Sign-in options, you guys don't have any there because it's just through Active Directory. We talked about password recovery right here. And then security, you can come in and change your MFA at any point, and you can also come in here and get rid of your active sessions that are happening within ClassLink. All right. One last thing I wanted to talk about is something called My Classes. So I don't have access to this on this account, but I'm going to switch over to a different one. But I just wanted to reiterate the fact that all of these apps and changes that I've made and the ones that I've added and the ones that I've removed, all of that only affects my dashboard personally. None of these changes impact anyone else outside of myself. So I just want to make that clear, because when we go into the next portion, there is a little bit more autonomy with that and a little bit more connection to your students to be able to push apps to them. So when we switch over to this account, you can see that now I have this backpack icon, and when I hover, it says My Classes. You can access My Classes from here. You can also access it from this hamburger menu. So if I open My Classes from here, you can see that it launches a new browser tab. So now I've got my dashboard, that's mine, and I have my classes, which is pushed through the student information system. So any class that I'm rostered to is now present in this view. So I can go into any of them and I can make a couple of changes. So number one, I can go in here and I can change the name of the class. So I might change it to, social studies. Can you tell I used to teach social studies? I also can change the image. So I can change that. Maybe I'll change it to a city, and that's perfectly fine. And there's a lot of different actions here that we can take a look at, and we'll do that. Now, when we're ready to kind of look down here, there are certain things that are turned on for your district and some things that are not. A lot of these things are very similar to what you can do within Google Classroom from these standpoints. But the one thing I want to take you to is to apps. So now you can see that these apps now are classroom based. So these are apps that I can push to my students on their My Classes account. So they're going to have their own dashboard with their own apps. But let's say there's something that you want them to have for a project or for your particular class. You can now be in charge of that using the My Apps function. So just like you can see, there's some that are already here. There's some that are locked. I can also go in and add a new app. Remember, this is not your district account. This is my demo account. So you're going to see some weird folders and things. But I can add any app that I want to this library that's specific to my social studies class. Now, remember, anything that you do add, you have to have a subscription for. So again, this is kind of an interesting example because, I have access to a lot of things that you may not. So just be aware of that. So I can add specifically to this class by clicking that add button, or I can add it to multiple classes by selecting the ones that I want or doing select all. So for right now, I'm just going to add 9 dots to this particular class. So now if a child comes into My Classes, goes into my social studies class, they will have access to 9 dots. Another great thing is the same thing we talked about before with a custom app. Now you can push custom apps out to your students or custom documents. So maybe it's the project rubric for something you're working on over the next couple of days. Maybe it's your agenda for the week. Whatever that is, again, we can use the same kind of, format that we did before. So I can do, rubric for project. And then I can paste that URL. I'm just going to do this one because I already have it out of there. And now I select my icon, select where I want it to go. It's been giving me an error message too, so I'm not really sure why. But normally, what happens is it dumps it onto your account. So now the students will have access to whatever that document is, whatever that app is, whatever you want them to have. And then obviously, just as easy as it is to add, you can also go in and remove. So when the project is done, when the resource isn't needed anymore, we can go in and we can delete it and be in charge of what our students are seeing in My Classes. The last thing that I wanted to talk about was just kind of the data that you can glean from ClassLink through My Classes. It's really quite powerful. So 3 different versions. It's kind of like the 10,000 foot view. You can kind of see like a whole, outline of your class. You could see student kind of viewpoints, and you can also see more detailed activity. So when we start with logins, That's going to give you data of how many kids logged into ClassLink for that particular day. So I just backed up to last week. Remember, this is all fake data. So, the fact that so many kids logged in on Saturday and Sunday, you may not see that, but you can also look and see, maybe we're out for a few days. You can go in and check on, what your students were doing and kind of compare it to your data. Maybe they were absent too, or what have you. The student tab is going to give you more details of that particular student and their login information. Again, this is fake data, so sometimes it makes sense and sometimes it doesn't. But if we scroll down, we can kind of track their usage, along the way. We can also take a look at their app summaries to find out what apps they're launching most often and how long they're launching it for. Remember that this time spent is not necessarily active time. So when you're seeing, I guess maybe we'll talk about it in the next section because this is kind of weird data. But you can see a lot of different things from here, which is really great to start conversations with the student or with parents or with counselors or with your team or with whomever. You also can see their information. So again, fake student, there's no information to see, but you'll be able to see some of their information so you can help them log in. This is also where you can kind of go in and work through those quick cards on a one-off basis. If we go back to activity, this is probably my favorite data set because it does give you a color-coded heat map of sorts of the activity that your students have been participating in ClassLink. So it's really kind of nice because now you can go in and see exactly. So, Kaylee was on or had ClassLink launch for 4 hours and 40 minutes the other day. I can go in here and I can see exactly what she was doing. Now, again, fake data, so take it with a grain of salt, but follow me here. So let's say we go in here. I mentioned that this is time spent, but not necessarily active time. This just means that she had Khan Academy open as a tab for 4.5 hours. So if I look at Khan Academy on my end of things and it doesn't look like Kaylee did anything, that might be a great, start of a conversation with her to say, hey, I noticed that, ClassLink is showing me that you had this tab launched, but my Khan Academy account is telling me that you didn't get much accomplished. Is there any way that I can help you, or how can I support you in getting your work finished? Another way that I like to use this data too is I like to think about, again, this is an excessive example, but that's okay. So let's say Eve has been struggling in my class and we've met with parents and we've talked about resources to help her, work through some of that. I might look at this and say, wow, 5.5 hours on Saturday. Eve was logged into ClassLink. Let's check out what she was doing. So now I can see for 1.5 hours, she was working on Reflex Math. So again, launched Reflex Math, but I could go into Reflex Math and take a look at what was done. So I might, applaud her when I see her on Monday and give her, a high five and say, I'm really proud of you for working through, send a note home to parents, send a note to the print, whatever the case may be, to really support that work that Eve's doing to help, increase her, grades or what have you. So the data is always helpful. Remember, it's not the be all end all. It's just a piece of the puzzle. But I really like this because it can help you create that conversation and also help kind of be a second set of eyes for you in classroom too, to kind of make sure your kids are on track. All right, so there was a lot of stuff that we covered today. So I hope that it was very helpful for you. And I really wish you guys a fantastic start to the school year. And I hope that, everything goes smoothly. I hope you love your ClassLink experience. And thank you so much.